Enough of that. It's Jeffers, Jordan. It's only an hour. I was thinking about this today, Jordan. Texas has the pool party today. This is the last one because next summer, July is a dead month. And I say this, man. I think we talked about this the other day. I was talking to a member of the Texas staff who shall remain nameless for ambiguity purposes. We're just talking about like, hey, they're looking forward to having July be dead next year because they might actually get some time off. I know there were some staff members that took like a couple of day vacations and then now they're back for the pool party. Probably, I think everybody came back yesterday. But, the coaches make a lot of money. Yeah, they're well compensated, but they're not robots, man. They can't go 24/7, 365 and expect to. Oh, and then by the way, now you're in win now mode when the actual team stuff starts happening next week when you get into camp. So I think it's good for everybody just to kind of. I think I saw our guy Tom Lloyd mention this. So Brian Doan at 24/7 Sports. Brian put out a big article about a week or two ago about the recruiting calendar changes. And I saw our guy Tom Lloyd, one of our national analysts, mention, hey, it's probably good for everybody from a mental health standpoint, just from a cycle standpoint, whatever, just to kind of shut it down for a little bit and recharge, regroup, and then get back after it in August with the recruiting stuff. So I dig it, but Oklahoma, LSU, Texas, there's a lot of schools. Oregon, I think, has their deal this weekend. There's a lot of schools doing, having barbecues, pool parties, whatever. Michigan has something that this is kind of the last hurrah for the July recruiting events.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's a good way for it to go out. I won't lie to you. Last year at this event, the whole time the media was kind of making fun of how weak the visitor list was. Like Joe Cook and I have a running joke that we probably say at least 5 times every one of these events that Dylan Raiola is going to walk off that bus. So, like, we're at the junior day in January because I'm telling you, the visitor list was so bad at this event last year that Chad Woodfork was a headliner as like the number 72 overall prospect at the time in the rising junior class. Last year was mostly rising juniors. Yes, Jonah Williams was there, but at the time we had him ranked as like the number 105 overall prospect. And, they did get some good use out of it. Jackson Christian was there. They ended up getting him to commit later on. Same with Caleb Chester, same with Lance Jackson. So, it wasn't the best group. Yes, they did get some use out of it, but we were making jokes all day like, oh, this is the bus Raiola's going to get off of. And it's just continued. So excited to see that it's a much better list this year around. A lot more. Actually, I don't know about a lot more emphasis, but there is more emphasis on the rising senior class than there was last year for this event. Like last year, the only 2024 prospects that were on campus were guys that were already committed. This year, they have 4 commits in the 2025 class that'll be there. Bo Barnes, Nick Townsend, KJ Lacey, blanking on the other one. But anyways, they have 3 uncommitted 2025. So what do you say?
Smith the Robo.
Yeah, Smith the Rugbo. And I believe the Coleman brothers originally weren't planning to be there today, but they might be coming in as of this morning. I need to double check with that on my way to campus today. But they have 3 uncommitted 2025 prospects visiting today, all of top priority pretty much. Jonah Williams, number 7 overall prospect in the country. First time back at Texas since I believe April. And before that, he hadn't been to Texas since this event last year. So really, really important. He obviously came out with his commitment date the day after he's seeing Texas today. Tomorrow he will see LSU. I spoke with a source close to him on my drive down from Dallas to Austin yesterday. And it's the top 5 is A&M, Texas, USC, Oregon, and LSU. And of those 5, the source believes the decision is going to come down to LSU, Oregon, and A&M. USC is – no one thinks he's actually going to go to USC, or at least as things currently stand. Mm-hmm. Texas, on the other hand, is kind of I would say is a school in 4th place. The source agrees with me, but also agrees with me that, today is a really, really, really important day that, we'll have a much better read going forward of where Texas stands in this. On the same note, though, while Jonah Williams is a great kid, I mean, a lot of these kids are great kids. I do not think this recruitment is going to be over after he commits, regardless if it's going to be, let's say, to Texas, Oregon, LSU. I don't know if we'll take other visits, but I'm not necessarily expecting him to like fully shut it down. So it'll be interesting to see how these next few weeks unfold. At this point in time, I think Oregon or LSU make the most sense. I think A&M has done a really good job at different times, but I'm not sure if Jonah Williams really pictures himself playing at A&M, if that makes sense. And I'll be able to get into more details about that as, we continue forward later on in the cycle. But right now, I guess that's what I'll leave it at. And then Michael Terry, he's the other 5-star in the 2025 class. It'll be here, nation's #1 overall athlete prospect. Seeing Texas today, we'll see Oregon tomorrow. And then as of yesterday, added a new visit. It was originally going to be Oregon was the last visit. Now he's going to see Nebraska on the 30th and 31st. He's going to visit them the last 2 days of this kind of open week there is for visits. I still think it's Texas versus Oregon. I'm not giving Nebraska much stock, at least as things currently stand. Yes, the visit could always, of course, change some things, but again, as of now, I still feel pretty good about my Texas crystal ball prediction. He's getting to camp. The event starts at 2, ends at 5. Michael Terry's going to get there in about 30, 40 minutes. Texas asked him to come early. They want more FaceTime with him. They really want to be able to sit down and talk with him, before there's 24 plus other kids on campus. So,
Yeah.
That kind of shows the priority he is. I'm sure Jonah Williams is getting there early as well, but I don't, have that as source intel that's confirmed like I do for Michael Terry. With Michael Terry on today's visit, he'll be accompanied by his mom, dad, grandma, and a family friend. And again, they'll be getting there around noon. So should get a text from a source whenever, the visit begins. And I guess if I'm on air, I'll let y'all know. But again, I feel good about my crystal ball prediction. I know folks are scared about NIL, and I know I've said it a lot, and I'm going to say it again. NIL is not nearly as important for this recruitment as it is for others. At the end of the day, this is an Alamo Heights kid. No one ever brought up NIL in the recruitments of Jaden Grayhouse or Cade Klubnik or any of the Westlake kids. It's a very similar thing, I'd say. So, and then the last 2025 visitor to wrap up 2025, J.J. Han out of Rancho Santa Margarita Catholic in California.
He's interesting.
Actually, really, really, really interesting prospect. Grew up in Germany, moved over to the States in 2022, has lived in California the whole time. He's been living over here in the U.S. I believe parents still work back in Germany, and they stayed in Germany. And a really interesting prospect because he grew up playing basketball and soccer, has a deep background in that, and then didn't play football until he arrived in America in 2022. Played D-line, O-line, went both ways, I believe, as a sophomore in that 2022 season, where last year I believe he was just full-time defense. Picked up a lot of offers lately. He had a couple of the G5s, a few West Coast P5s, and then he hit the camp circuit. I'm blanking on the name of it, but he's part of that, Jeff, you know what it is. He's part of that overseas kind of developed recruiting program, whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
It's run by this guy who does a really, really good job. And I
know that sounds generic, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Because there's only one of them really that consistently will produce overseas prospects, and it's that guy in that program. But anyways, hit the camp circuit to start the month of June, end of May, and he's picked up like over a dozen Power 5 offers, and they're not just like Rutgers and North Carolina State. Like we're talking Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Texas A&M, Nebraska, Oregon, you name it. He's picked up a lot of the heavy hitters off of camping. Yes, he's raw. Yes, there's, it's going to take some time to make him a playable prospect at the Power 5 or playable player at the Power 5 level. But I mean, when you're 6'5", about 285 and can move your feet like he can, which comes from the, soccer and basketball background, you're going to catch the attention of a lot of college coaches, and that he has. So really, really interesting, just prospect in general. I believe
Brandon Collier from PPI Recruits.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what it is. That's the service. Yep.
So, again, JJ Han, real name is actually Jaden Jamal Han, but goes by JJ. And it'll be his first time, I believe, just in the state of Texas in general. So hoping we're able to talk to him afterwards. Really interested what he has to say. So yeah, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm blanking on the school, but I believe he has another visit this week as well after the Texas visit. He originally had a Georgia official visit scheduled for the June 21st through 23rd weekend. But whenever he went home to see his parents in the summer and came back, they were planning to be at the Georgia OV. They had kind of a, I don't know if mishap's the right word, but they had some issues getting back into the U.S. Due to passports or whatnot. They weren't able to make it. Georgia was like, hey, we really like you and we want your parents to see this too. So we're just going to postpone this. So he has a Georgia OV for the season that's kind of planned for TBD. It's going to happen. I'm sure Texas will try to schedule an OV with him for this season before, he leaves campus today. So a lot to like, or actually he comes in today, but he's visiting tomorrow. I'm sure he'll be on campus for some parts today. So we just threw him on today's visitor list, but it could be potentially, if with where Texas is at in defensive line recruiting, they need at least 3 bodies. And in my eyes, I think they need at least 4 bodies out of high school. It's going to be really hard to get 4 true difference makers, like 4 guys that are DJ Sanders, Myron Charles, Josiah Sharma talent. But if you're going to take 4 guys, this is an amazing take to have as a 4th or 3rd guy. Just a guy with developmental upside that there's just so many tools and traits to work with, and there's no pressure on him to play until like year 3. So,
and here's I'll borrow the line I hear Fran Fraschilla talk about. And I was disappointed Fran didn't do the draft this year on ESPN. He was on Stadium's coverage because Fran's really knowledgeable on international prospects, and you get to some of those second rounders where you'll get a power forward who's like 6'8", 160 pounds. And Fran will use the line, hey, he's a year away from being a year away. That's kind of how you would describe this kid. It's a couple things, though. It's interesting. International recruiting has always been a big deal for basketball. But, man, if I'm Texas, and the second thing that I was going to mention, too, bleeds in here, did you see the roster numbers come out yesterday on what's being proposed, going from 85 to 105, and the ability to offer full scholarships starting with the 25-26 athletic year? You can, in theory, take a couple of guys like this and kind of stash them away and develop them and tell them, hey, you're going to get your education paid for at Texas. We just want to develop you, and you're a few years away from being able to play, but we feel like we can develop you, and in a couple of years you can be good. Sark, as a matter of fact, I'm working on just not an in-depth story, but just a quick one, because Sark at the THSCA convention talked about basically how he views using the portal and why high school recruiting is still so important to him. Man, Sark still wants, and this staff, they want to be a really good developmental staff. They want to recruit high school kids, develop high school kids, send high school kids to the NFL. That's how they want to do it. And that's, I think, one thing they can do when you've got expanded rosters and you've got unless I'm misinterpreting it, Jordan, you're going to have 20 extra scholarships to play with. Yeah, you can take a few developmental guys.